Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning to our lecturer, Madam Sharifah. I am Aiza Hanani. My student ID 2019348 123.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Ahmad Shahir bin Ahmad Juanda. My ID number is 2019531197.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Suhaimi bin Wari. ID number is 2019 578853.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Izzat Zulhilmin Shah bin Ali. My metric number 2018216742.
My name is Nur Shafika binti Saidin. My metric number is 2019333881. Okay, for the introduction, we appointed as a multidiscipline consultant team for a mega project consists of 88-story office building that to be built in Kampung Baru, Kuala Lumpur. The proposed project consists of 7-story shopping mall, 5-story of basement, 79-story of office unit, and 2-story of viewing deck. For our case study for this foundation, Golding Finance 117 and Menara PMB 118 are our case study reference of an ongoing project. Meanwhile, for basement reference, our case study is Agar Bukit Bintang and Kencang Hotel Bukit Bintang. Okay, next presenter is Muhammad Izzat.
Okay, for the deep foundation, alternative Kaizen, the method first is for Kaizen. First is Kaizen construction, also known as Kaizen foundation, is a water retaining structure that is mainly used in construction project, take place underwater. Kaizen foundation are also prefabricated cylinder or hollow box that are sunk to the desired deep beneath ocean, river, and other water body. They are then filled with concrete to create a solid foundation for the project. Kaizen foundation is most often used in the construction of bridgeway or other structure that require foundation beneath. This is because Kaizen can be floated to the job site and sunk into a place. Second is alternative two for the foundation is board pile. Installation. The method of construction is first installation a board pile. Start with drilling a vertical hole into the soil using a filling machine, and after the board pile is difficult soil condition like soft or weak soil condition. They are also particularly well suitable to unstable or difficult soil condition. In addition to foundation system, board pile are used to create structural underground wall for earth retention. Pile can be placed close together with 75 to 155 mm between pile, or they can be placed so they overlap to create a second pile wall, which is often used to control migration of groundwater. Next is a basement. For alternative one, top down. For the method of construction is under top construction method. The basement concrete slab function is lateral bracing toward the perimeter wall system. ground level and first basement slab are for with access hall left to facilitate excavation below. Top-down method is mostly suitable for two types of urban structure. First, tall building containing deep basement and underground structure like car park, underpasses, and subway station. Next is alternative two for basement is cut and cover. The cut and cover method was originally developed for construction of shallow underground structure in congested urban area where open excavation technique will cause significant disruption to traffic. So the method comprised a first stage of construction, the cover, and earth retaining concrete shell, followed by the second stage, the cutting operation, representing the main excavation activity under the previously constructed cover. The retaining effect in road tunnel engineering are established by concrete wall, providing safe cover to excavating activity underneath. Second is the cut and cover is usually used to single or twin tunnel lining. Okay, next presentation.
Okay, next on material use. For deep foundation, for alternative one, which is Kaizen, it has two types of use. First, high material. According to Tianjin, state that the material used must be high performance material. Okay, high performance construction material include concrete, steel, fiber concrete, cement, fiber reinforced plastic, polymers material, and others material. Based on suggestion, state that testing and application are required. In particular, the application of in a new high-performance construction material to design parties. Such a raw material with a high strength and high density has been used in super tall building. Okay, on the second term, which is material use. Second term in material use are type of steel consumption. For this super tall building with height of 300 meter and above, are mainly used for office, hotel, or apartment. Okay, state that based on Tianjin, state that since over 90% of current super tall buildings in China are steel and reinforced concrete hybrid structure. Moreover, for the triangle are represent as steel consumption of super tall building on North America with similar height. Okay, for the alternative two, which is Bopai. Okay, for the material use, as we know, Bopai also known as replacement pile are used form of building foundation that distribute support for structure, transferring their load to layer of soil and rock that have been sufficient bearing capacity and suitable settlement further. So this material pile must be used a high quality material. Okay, as we know, pile are used to transmit foundation load through the soil strata of low bearing capacity to deeper soil or rock having a higher bearing capacity. Okay, next on the two category of supported pile depend on the casing or lid that has been used. First, permanent casing can be by the method, which is involved of heavy cutting tool on a small tree, which is dropped from raised position. Use a winch to cut the cylinder off. The operation is repeated until the hole has been sunk. As the cutting process, a thin sectional limb is inserted into the hole to prevent from collapse. This alternative can be by the rotary method. in which the rotary deal within the casing. Okay, on the third material use is a temporary casing. For this ball pile, it's common for the bolt to be supported by a screw jointed steel lining, which is removed either during or after the concrete has been placed. The tube can be winched or jacked out of the ground. Flush boring is a fluid such as you ventilate the flush material from the hole which has been loosed by drilling. Okay, for the next on the basement, material used for the top-down method has three. First, on high-quality retaining wall. Okay, as we know, this method involves the installation of retaining wall to support the side of the excavation, a bracing system, control of groundwater, and underpinning of injunction structure when necessary. Thus, the first term in material use must be high-quality retaining wall. Retaining wall are relative rigid wall used for supporting soil laterally so that it can be retained at different level of two sides. Next, on the second term, which is steel strut. Okay, a steel strut is usually formed from a metal sheet folded over into an open channel shape with inward curving lips to provide additional stiffness and as a location to mount the interconnecting component. Okay, lastly, on the material use, we is basement waterproofing. Based on British standards state that Code of Practice of Protection of Structure Against Water from the Ground define the performance level for dryness of building basement in 4 grades. To achieve the performance level required, one or a combination of the following water system may be adopted by the membrane system, internal system, and drainage system. Next, on the cut and cover, for this building consists of 4 materials. Okay. The first one, which is general material used for the earthwork. Okay, the general earthwork. This material use is for site cleaning, earthwork, and bulk excavation to the required basement formulation level and remove surplus excavated material to contractor on the dump site. The piling work in the construction of Sisson Boulevard is accordance with the confirmed design at the specific position and according with the layout issued by the engineer. Okay, next on the retaining wall. Okay, a retaining wall is a structure that hold and retain the soil behind it. There are many types of material that can be used to create the retaining wall, like concrete block, poured concrete, treated timber, rock, or boulder. Some are easy to use. Others have a shorter lifespan, but all can retain soil. Okay, on the third element, which is dewatering. Okay, for this project, where the depth excavation are planned and the water table is known to be relatively shallow, dewatering of the project may play a significant role in planning and design of the structure process. Construction dewatering, sometimes referred as unwatering, may also be as a part of the design plan to prevent infiltration and or offloading of substructure component. Okay, on the last material use, which is basement waterproofing. Okay, as we know, basement waterproofing involve technique and material used to prevent water from evaporation. Okay, the basement of a house or building. This water from seepage stay at the floor line of the basement and it's not through the connection can cause severe damage to the entire wall of the basement and the content of the basement. Okay, next on the Construction procedure for deep foundation, for alternative one is Kaizen. It consists 5 steps. First one, we must setting up the vacated concrete block. Next, fill with the concrete, and then elaborate anchoring system may be required. The fourth step, which is Kaizen, is displaced quiet depth. And lastly, concrete will be sealed cap. On the Popeye, it consists 7 steps. The first one, which is we must setting up the pipe position. Then install of the temporary casing, drill of the pipe borehole. Next step, which is recycling, pave, reinforce cages, 6 concreting, and lastly remove temporary casing. For basement, for top-down method, it consists 5 steps. First one, construct permanent structure retaining wall. After that, we construct pre-founded column. And the third step, construct slab on the ground. Next, case ground floor slab. And lastly, excavate and case upper basement for the floor slab. Okay, for the alternative 2, which is cut and cover method, it consists 5 steps. The first one, we must construct the retaining wall. Second, excavation work. And the third one, construct structure, which is bottom up. Fourth, backfill is required. And lastly, removing of any temporary retaining wall. Next, on the safety procedure, Shafiq present on that part.
Okay, for safety procedure for deep foundation for alternative 1, Kaizen. Okay, first we have to preparation. Second is protective equipment. Third is wear personal protective equipment. Fourth is personal protective gear. 5 is policy and procedure. 6 is OSHA guideline. Okay, for the first, the safety procedure in Kaizen foundation, first is do preparation. Most construction projects begin long before foundation contractor are called in to doing Kaizen or pour a slab. Then we begin with the survey, environmental study and other tests to ensure that the building site is safe and ready for construction worker to begin. The contractor shall ensure the construction of the concrete Kaizen lining follow the excavation sufficiently closely to ensure the stability of the work. Second is protective equipment. It is on construction companies to provide adequate safety equipment for workers. This includes such items as lifeline for fall protection, secure scaffolding, steady stairway, and ladder. In addition, employer must train workers on how to use this equipment appropriately, including an understanding of potential danger to themselves and worker only. Third is wear personal protective equipment suitable for the job. Safety shoes protect your feet from crushing injuries. Long pants and sleeves protect your skin from cuts, scratches, and exposure to the chemical and concrete. A hard hat protect you from falling items. Wear leather gloves, wear moving equipment and material, wear chemical resistant gloves if you work with chemical and concrete. Besides that, personal protective gear. In addition to provide proper protective equipment for workers, construction companies should provide or require employers to purchase personal protective gear. This include items like non-slip or steel queue work boot, hard hat, glove, goggle, and mask. In other hand, policy and procedure. When training employers, it's imperative that they know how to use properly safety equipment and personal protective. They also need to understand safety policy and procedure. Lastly, for OSHA guideline, when in doubt, there a good chance OSHA has the answer. They can provide a variety of resources, including industry guidelines, material, training, seminar, and on other site assessment. For safety procedure in Bhopal, first is safety procedure for Bhopal is must competent person shall be appointed to conduct risk assessment. A competent person or engineer shall be appointed to assess the stability of the plant with regard to its weight and the soil and weather condition. And second is a daily checklist together with pointer and calling system for the casing oscillator operator shall be implemented. And lastly, for Bhopal safety procedure is refresher courses and training for all operator and maintenance staff on safe method of operating. Checking and maintenance of the casing oscillator shall be conducted. Okay, for the safety procedure in basement, for top down, first is material handling, second is manual handling. For manual handling, all staff and contractor have been instructed on the potential danger of manual handling that have been received manual handling training. Staff and contractor will not leave item of tool or equipment beyond their capability. For the material handling, all material required for site will be unloaded to a designated unloading and storage area which will be away from the work area as far as is predictable. This area will keep tidy to minimize trip hazard. Okay. Lastly, for safety procedure for cut and cover for basement, first is relevant health and safety legislation, and second is the contractor must be suitability experienced and qualified. All work will be carried out in accordance with the relevant health and safety legislation, including the Work Design and Management Regulation 2007, the Health and Safety of Work Act 1974, and the Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulation 1999. Okay, that's all for the safety procedure. Next presenter for case study is Muhammad Izzat.
For our first case study for the foundation is Kaisen. It's Golden Finance 117. Our case study reference of an profile. For our second case study for the foundation profile, Merdeka PNB 118. Our case study reference of an ongoing project. And third, for basement, for our case study for basement, Angel Bukit Bintang. Our case study reference of an completed project. And fourth is for our second case study for basement, Kencho Hotel Bukit Bintang. Our case study reference of an completed project. Next presentation.
What are the problems and the anticipated solution for the deep foundation and the basement for the case study? First one, for the deep foundation, for the first case study, which is Golden Finance 117, the first problem that they're having was well sinking of sand blowing. Sand blowing during well sinking takes place during the watering process of the well passing through sandy strata. The ground around the well starts to break up, and some white cracks are formed. The sand falls in the caisson is sudden and huge in amounts to a sand depth of 3 to 50 meters. Then it can lead to some fatal accidents. What are the solutions to solve this? The right answer is when the sand blowing occurs, the caisson dewatering should immediately discontinue, and bundles of grass and some filling materials should be placed all around the steining to control the sand blowing. For the next problem of the caisson case study is tilting of well. When a well sinks more or one side than the other, then it is known to have tilted. The tilting is mainly due to unequal dredging and non-uniform bearing power of soil. To solve this, the use of the dredging control can use to control this problem. Dredging is done only near to the portion which has tilted. The portion which is higher than the other is termed as tilted edge. This method is not very effective when the well has been sunk to a great depth. A hole is made in steining, and by hooks, the rope of the dredge is pulled towards higher side to the maximum possible extent. Then the hole is also made near to the ground level. For the second case study of the caisson, which is Merdeka 118, it used the ball pile foundation. The first problem is the concrete defect when the workers want to extracting the temporary casing. After concreting, extraction of temporary casing can create problems when delays and partial separation of the pile shaft occurs. This is may caused by the poor concrete mix design, delay in extracting, and use of dirty and dented casing. To solve this, the solution is the concreting step of the cost in situ piles needs to be done by skilled operator because it needs to use the correct concrete mixing. To make sure that the concrete quality is good, the mixers are to be designed to have sufficient workability, so that the concrete mixing is self-compacting and not falling. The concrete is placed in boreholes using tremie pipe to avoid segregation and imprinting of concrete on the sides of borehole. The concreting process should be continuous and completed without any break. Then, slump test can be used to measure the consistency of the fresh concrete made. It is used indirectly to check the correct water amount to be added to the mix. The next problem in Merdeka 118 is the problem is not being to withdraw the drill up. The drill are not able to withdrawn up caused by power supply interruption or a crane failure. The cut in drilling process forces the need to unplug the drill head after the power failure. The drill bit will get stuck at the bottom of the hole, which cannot lift nor speed it. To solve this, the workers can use the method of drawing the wall tube about 20 centimeter before withdrawing the drill bit itself. The tube wall will be lowered immediately after the drill head is pulled up. Then by using a high pressure hose, remove the collapsed soil and push it deep below the drill head to move the drill head down vertically so as not to tilt into the wall. Then the drill head will be withdrawn right after. For the next basement, the first case study, which is Agile Bukit Bintang, that use top-down basement construction. The first problem arise was limited headroom for the excavation in the top-down method. The difficulty faced is limited headroom for the workers to done the excavation process. The constraints in the headroom and limited working area lead to challenging unwanted soil removal. For example, the boulders. A tedious job which is need great care because they don't want to weaken the pre-constructed surrounding structures. To solve this, the use of mini pile rigs can be applied to pass through the narrow opening to operate in the headroom as low as 2.0 meter. The pile rig has the capability of installing the piles up to 10 meter to 40 meter deep. Through this, higher capacity piles can be installed within a limited area with also a cost-effective solution. The second problem is a very restricted opening access for the material handling work. As we know, the temporary opening in a floor slab is required to provide access for the material handling process. The opening is also for the purpose of excavated earth removal process, as well as the machinery and material delivery for the construction of the substructure. Provision of mechanical ventilation and artificial lighting is also necessary to get down during the construction process. How to solve this? A protective and safe opening on the slab must be provided by the project manager to allow safe excavation work to proceed downward. Project manager must plan properly every handling process that need to take place. Then, to help this, project manager must put only involved workers to be permitted near the opening to maximize the oxygen capacity required for the involved workers. For the second case study, which is Kencho Hotel Bukit Bintang, they use the basement construction of cut and cover. The first problem arise was the contamination of the groundwater. Groundwater often relates to pollution issue by this construction method. It causes some disruptive effects in the congested urban environment. The inflows of contaminated water by the construction process can contribute to flood excavations or even instability of the soils and rock in the excavation area that make them start to collapse. To solve this, some techniques are used. One of them is to keep the groundwater in good environmental condition. One of the techniques is dewatering, which involves removing water from the construction site or area. It is done by the method of pumping or evaporating method. Then it can help to minimize the impact of potential settlement and the effect of groundwater by the structures and facilities involved. The second problem arise was stability problems during the excavation phase. Steep excavation and implementation of support, either by means of temporary walls and bracing system, is needed to support the slopes of excavation. Tunnel portals are very often sensitive for the excavation, since the constitutive rock material is likely to be weathered and quite unstable. Damage at and near the portal may be significant due to the slope instability of the excavation. To solve this stability problem will be identified and quantified by a geotechnical investigation. Extremely adverse geotechnical conditions case sometimes requires pre-strengthening method in order to minimize or avoid these stability problems during the excavation phase. It will establish full protection during the construction and operation stage. The method is characterized by repeating that solve from the problems and solution.
Next, I will explain about the comparative analysis between the alternatives for deep foundation and basement. So, firstly, for the deep foundation, the first alternative is the Kaizen foundation. There are some major advantages of using Kaizen foundation. Firstly, they are cost effective to construct as compared to the alternatives and also prove effective at deep depths of water bodies. They also have high lateral and horizontal load capacity. The weight of the structure can be easily held by the piers and is very sturdy. Other advantage is the quality control of pneumatic Kaizen is good as it is built on dry conditions. On the other hand, there are also a few disadvantages to Kaizen foundation. Kaizen foundation, they can be very sensitive to grueling construction procedures and are not considered good for use at contaminated site. Moreover, only a few construction companies possess the requisite expertise and qualified inspectors needed for the supervision of Kaizen construction. Lastly, Kaizen cannot be placed where soil has been contaminated or face bigger risk of contamination on the site due to amount of drilling required to place the Kaizen. Next, I will talk about the second alternative, which is the bore pile foundation. So, one of the main advantages of bore piles are piles of variable lengths can be extended through soft, compressible, or swelling soil into suitable bearing material. Piles can be extended to depths below frost penetration and seasonal moisture variation. Large excavation and subsequent backfill are minimized. Next, it has less disruption to adjacent soil occurs and vibration is relatively low, reducing disturbance of adjacent piles or structures. Lastly, large excavations and subsequent backfills are minimized. Well, like any other deep foundation system, board piles present challenges for the contractors. Because the drilling method used depends on the soil type, the contractor must complete a thorough soil investigation and report. The piling contractor relies on the soil report and past experience to choose the best drilling method that will minimize the disturbance of the surrounding soil. Furthermore, board pile is one of the slowest forms of piling processes. This causes higher project costs. Also, due to longer working period, workers and neighboring areas face further noise exposure. Last but not least, when the soil is loose, such as with sand, gravel, and silt of the hole extends below the water table, the hole must be supported using steel cages or stabilizing mud such as bentonite suspension. This solution can be very messy process and add considerable complexity to the project. So next, we move on to the next alternatives for basement. So the first alternative is top-down construction method. And the second one is cut and cover. So what are the advantages of using top-down construction method? Firstly, it allows the superstructure to be constructed at the same time as the substructure. Secondly, it may result in shorter construction duration due to overlapping of construction activities. Third, we can see it's easier construction of roof since it can be cast on prepared grade rather than using bottom forms. So what are the disadvantages of using top-down construction method for basement? Firstly, is inability to install external waterproofing. Secondly, potential water leakage at the joints between slab and walls could occur. Thirdly, limited spaces and access for excavation and as well construction of the bottom slab. So now we'll talk about the second alternative, that is cut and cover. So one of the main advantages of cut and cover construction method for basement is, firstly, the conventional method or the conventional construction method is well understood by contractors. Secondly, the inside of the excavation is easily accessible for the construction equipment and the delivery, storage and placement of materials. Thirdly, drainage system can be installed outside of the structure and waterproofing can be applied to the external surface of the structure as well. So, what are the disadvantages of using cut and cover method? Number one is somewhat of a larger footprint. There is somewhat of a larger footprint required for construction. Number two, the ground surface cannot be restored to its final condition until construction is complete. And thirdly, it may require dewatering that could have adverse effects on surrounding infrastructure. So, in conclusion, as a consultant, we will choose board pile because of their technology and the whole process is very systematic and complex. However, as an advanced technology company, construction must master it in order to enhance market competitiveness and gain access to development. On the other hand, for basement, we decided to go for top-down method. We can conclude that top-down construction has its suitability for certain kind of mega structures. It is suitable for structures with deep basement like underground rails and car parks. But top-down construction needs very efficient planning and designing and skill supervision and labor force. So that's all from all of us. Thank you.